I, 26 male, caught my live-in girlfriend 24 female of 5 years cheating on me with her coworker. My partner and I have been together for 7 years. We've been dating for almost 5 years and living together for around 18 months. I traveled out of state for work and have been gone for a week. My flight had been delayed due to weather, so I told her I would simply spend the night. But on the spur of the moment, I decided to take the red eye and then drive back through the morning. I imagined it'd be a pleasant surprise. When I arrived, I spotted another vehicle in the driveway. It didn't really hit me. I simply thought it was strange considering how early it was. I'm used to coming home late, so I'm adept at sneaking in silently. I came in, unpacked my filthy clothes, placed them in the hamper, and then went to my bedroom. They were both in bed, barely partially clothed. I didn't instantly identify the other person. I don't know how long I stood there since they were both sleeping. It didn't add up. I had one of those moments after recognizing the man in bed with her. Just a split second when I envisioned taking up something big and slamming it into his face. But it was over in a flash. I was just exhausted and depressed. I woke her up and informed her that I was leaving for a motel. I guess she was too sleepy to realize it at first. She was smiling for a few moments before recalling. She sprang up and began to speak and scream, but I ignored her. I grabbed some more clothing and left. Before leaving the driveway, I switched off my phone. I'm at a loss on what to do right now. I feel as though I've been in a car wreck. I'm sitting in this dingy motel room, consuming some mediocre whiskey on the way over. I stopped at the grocery. I've got my laptop, phone, and a change of work clothes, and that's all I've got. I don't want to feel like this any longer. I don't want to be any longer. Read the email she gave me for an update. I'm done with it. I cried for a while because she was so direct about it. It wasn't the first time they'd slept together, and she didn't attempt to justify it by claiming there were extenuating circumstances. I wasn't stoned or intoxicated. He did not compel me. When he hit on me, I was flattered. He's a highly gorgeous guy who could definitely sleep with a number of different ladies. So it was incredibly meaningful for him to choose me. It was an opportunity to appease my big ego. She claimed she'd understand if I didn't want her in the home or in my life. She thanked me for not calling her A or anything else, even if I am. She said I didn't have to stay at a hotel, that she'd be gone in the morning, and that she'd leave her keys there. Then she apologized for betraying all we had and shattering your confidence in me. She stated I didn't have to speak to her again if I didn't want to. I can't do anything to make up for what I've done. No apology is sufficient. I was selfish, arrogant, and deceptive just because I wanted to be. I don't deserve your forgiveness, no matter how much I want it. I'm just asking because I'm a hypocrite. I apologize. I'm crying all over again just reading this. I'm pleased she didn't attempt to excuse her actions, but I'm still perplexed. Update 2. I've been home for a few hours now. I ate a grilled cheese with onions while watching Cosmos. I almost wish I'd been called into work. It would have been simpler to distract myself. It's been difficult to resist the impulse to call her as it is. I'm not sure how I'm expected to resolve things if I don't approach her at some point. In the interim, I've received a couple phone calls. A few were from her family, with whom I am quite friendly. I'm guessing she informed them she cheated at some time yesterday. Her sister informed me that she would be sleeping in a spare bedroom at her house, and her father apologized through text, claiming he believed he'd raised her better. I was pleased that she had not sent me any texts. I'd be inclined to call if I heard her voice. When I realized I'd received a text from her colleague, I almost burst out laughing. I'm sorry, guy. I didn't know. Perhaps he did, perhaps he did not. I don't mind as long as I never see him again. People have given me a lot of advice and encouragement, which I much appreciate. Some people believe I'm a jerk for not evicting her right away. I disagree, but whatevs. However, I also got a few alarming and nasty remarks implying that I should have gone far further. Call me a beta if I didn't send someone to the hospital. I'm not looking to satisfy individuals like you, and that type of nonsense makes my heart skip a beat. Anyway, based on the advice I've received, it seems like a long separation would be the best way to establish how I feel. Despite what has occurred, I have no regrets over the previous 5 years, but I need some time to think things out, and I'm not the sort to jump into something. So I'm not going to throw away everything she has. What I could appreciate some assistance with is determining the period. How long do I have to wait? At some point, there must be a conversation. Update 3. About 2 days ago, I arrived home early to discover my girlfriend, let's call her Laura, sleeping in bed with one of her coworkers. I was too weary and stunned to talk to her, so I departed after obtaining a change of clothing and staying the night at a motel. People on here gave me a lot of helpful advice, which helped me plan my future moves and realize the world isn't over. I set aside a day today to do a lot of tasks. I removed her from both my internet and phone contacts. I contacted Laura's sister and asked her to come over and get everything Laura would need for the next 3 months, but I told her I didn't want Laura to come here. She concurred. Then I packed everything I knew she'd need: bank statements, phone chargers, glasses, and so forth. I also jotted down all of the contact information she'd need to have her. Mail diverted. Her sister arrived just after noon with a few boxes. I helped her with packing a little, but it didn't take long. Clothes, cosmetics, plus a few more items I'd forgotten about. As she was leaving, she informed me that Laura had requested a transfer at work. I brushed it off and said goodbye. She genuinely did that. I think it's not anything I should be concerned about right now. According to what everyone on here has said, now is the time to concentrate on myself. To that purpose, I phoned work and checked that I had a week and a half of paid vacation. I won't necessarily take them right away, but it's nice to know. I spent the remainder of the day simply trying to have a good time. While eating double cheese macaroni, I watched 2 of my favorite Mel Brooks films. I went to the local Barnes & Noble and bought a few books. And I tried a new game called DayZ, which I'm completely useless at. I believe I've made a clean split and given myself the necessary space, but I'm still in a bad mood. I was having tiny forgotten moments all day that made me feel like garbage. While exploring the bookshop, I think to myself she'd adore this book. She usually chuckles at that point, for example, when watching a movie. I can't stop thinking about them. My brain simply kicks into high speed, regurgitating memories and ideas I don't need. I don't know how to go over it. It drives me insane. Logically, I realize that I need time and space to think things out, to reorganize. Nonetheless, the prospect of spending a month like this makes me feel as if I'm battling to breathe. What if I need 3 months? Or how about 6? Or over a longer period of time? I'm afraid I'm going nuts. I'm at a loss on what to do with myself. I'm at a loss on what to do with this spare time. I've severed the ripcord and I'm now free-falling. Update 4. I followed some of the fantastic advice from many of you and looked into a few projects to keep myself busy. Changing my living environment seems to be a major theme, and simply changing a few items in the flat has already helped me feel a bit better. After speaking with the landlord, I went out and purchased some paint materials. There are no plans for murals, but the small splash of blue I slapped over the yellow beige of one wall has improved my spirits. Working out seems to be less intuitive. I've never been in bad condition because of a healthy metabolism, a somewhat active lifestyle, and food habits that are better than dismal. So I'm not quite from couch to 60, but I'm getting there since I've never had any official training/instruction in either exercise or diets. I'm thinking that riding a stationary bike for 30 minutes a few times a week might be a nice place to start. However, any genuine suggestions on where to begin would be much welcomed. I'm thinking about using part of my vacation time to go elsewhere. A brief change of location may also help me get my mind on straight. Update 5. Okay, this was a freaking awful day. I've been trying my hardest to keep my together. I had plans, things I needed to accomplish. I got up for work, my first day back following the incident. I was looking forward to getting lost in the details. So of course, on my way to work, I get into a vehicle accident. Of course, it's a given. All of my progress has gone down the toilet. I don't recall the collision itself, but I was assured I wasn't to blame. I have whiplash, a concussion, and my left eye has swelled shut. Add bruises all over and you've got the picture. I have to spend the night because the doctor wants me to have a CT scan and an MRI in the morning. I contacted my parents and told them I was all right since I didn't want them to drive 4 hours for this. I also informed a few workplace buddies about what had occurred, and they agreed to cover for me until I could return. Meanwhile, I'm confined in this bed, looking at my phone. It is hard for me to unwind. Since I arrived, my left hand has had what seems to be the world's biggest for in it. At one point, I was counting the milliliters on the pump display down to 0 as I watched the bag drain. I figured if I could just pull it off, I'd have one hand free. I'd feel a little more at ease. I might perhaps sleep. The nurse then made her rounds, replacing the almost empty bag with a fresh one. I nearly burst out laughing. Then Laura arrived, and it's as though someone warped my mind. I wanted her to be here more than anything else, yet I also felt sick. I couldn't help but stare at her. She tried hard to say something, but she burst into tears before she could finish. She inquired as to my well-being. I was well prepared for a monosyllabic response. At work, the reptilian, calculating side of myself. She is aware of my vulnerability. Perhaps she's just taking advantage of the circumstance, using it to her advantage. Laura then grasped my hand in hers, and I just vanished. My body aches, I'm unhappy, and I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted in every sense. We both sobbed as she gripped my hand. She simply kept repeating, "I'm so sorry." It took me a few moments to gather my thoughts. I really wanted Laura to remain, but I knew I shouldn't argue with myself in this state. I thanked her for her visit and requested her to go. Laura was still weeping and remained silent for a minute. Then she apologized for coming and told me she loved me before leaving. I'm lying here, feeling helpless. All of the initiatives I had planned to aid are a waste of time. I'm trapped in this filthy bed with my thoughts. I can't even take one stride forward and 2 steps back. This is terrible. It's a friggin' suck. I'm not making eye contact, but all I want right now is for her fingers to ruffle my hair. I'm not sure how I'm going to pull this off right now. Update 6. I got some sleep yesterday morning, but I was often disturbed by nurses, so I didn't get much. After the MRI findings, the doctor encouraged me to remain at least another night. On the other hand, I asked them to give me medication to help me sleep, and once I eventually got the rum and 4 out, a coworker retrieved a few items from my apartment. I had planned to update yesterday night, but I was just too weary. Games are out of the question, since my friend accidentally brought my work laptop. However, I should be out of here by noon. Laura's sister phoned and asked if I wanted any food sent over, but I knew who would be preparing it, so I declined. I need to wait 2-3 weeks before engaging in any hard physical exercise, so my gym plans have been put on hold. But I want to thank you everyone for your help and suggestions over the previous several days. I felt wretched lying in this bed, even more so after reading all the kind things most of you had to say. I appreciate the movie and book recommendations. Despite the restrictions imposed by my doctor, I'll have plenty to do for the time being. This has been the most difficult week of my life, and I don't believe I'd have made it as far as I did without you. Update 7. My hospital stay and injuries restricted what I could accomplish, but I had a nice to-do list of books, movies, and other tasks. It made my life a lot easier to tolerate. I haven't spoken to my ex since she came to see me in the hospital. I receive updates on what she's up to from her sister on a regular basis, and I can't help but read them. I'm not sure whether I believe them or not, and I'm not sure if knowing that she isn't seeing or sleeping with anybody makes me feel better or worse. Getting back to work was quite beneficial. Part of it was due to the job. Looking at hundreds of design drawings for something like a backup power plant cooling system is time-consuming, but it does a good job of absorbing stray ideas. My colleagues were much more helpful. It's not like I've ever felt left out or excluded before. However, as news of what occurred spread, I was invited to little expeditions every weekend, BBQs, movie evenings, arcade outings. It was all a little much for me. What I didn't anticipate was the outpouring of female interest. It didn't happen all at once, but a few weeks after I came out of the hospital, I began getting calls from females at work inviting me out on lunch dates and the like. Several of the men at work have also tried to set me up on dates. I felt terrible about myself after what occurred, and being desired like that boosted my confidence a lot. It had been years since I had dated, so it was both flattering and unsettling at the same time. So far, I've only gone on a few dates, partially because I couldn't see myself with someone who was at least a bit smart. I've been out a couple times with a female a few years my senior. I was really taken aback when she began reciting Star Trek, TNG. We went to see Guardians of the Galaxy on a movie date and had a great time. But despite all of the amazing things that are happening right now, I still have to work every day to make ends meet. When I'm not at work, I feel aimless, fatigued, or unwell. It might be difficult to concentrate at times. Every day I've gone on has turned into an internal competition to see how much I can compare the date to my ex. Everything appears to be on half mute at times, and the finest part of my day seems to be when I go to bed. Despite all of my improvement, I'm still unhappy. It doesn't help that a portion of my mind is always telling me how simple it would be to reconcile with my ex and start anew. I'm at a loss on what to do.